Nobody cares. And frankly, I'm the most solid person up here. I built a tremendous company, and all I want to do is make America great again.
6 years and 11 days ago, an American couple came down a very famous escalator in New York. He was a billionaire property developer and a reality TV star. She was a beautiful model and legal immigrant to the United States. That day, Donald John Trump announced the launch of his campaign for the presidency, an announcement that he was mercilessly ridiculed for by both the left and the Republican establishment, although no one should actually have been surprised. Since the 1980s, Donald Trump had made it clear that the swamp needed draining, and he had an idea of how to do it.
Billions and billions of dollars are being spent on getting oil for Japan, and they're not paying anything for it. Essentially, they're paying nothing for it. We have tankers going back and forth that our men are protecting, losing their lives. I mean, they're losing their lives, Larry. We're spending billions and billions on protection, and those tankers are going over to Japan. It's just preposterous. I watched the Kuwaiti oil minister the other day laughing as he was explaining how much money they intend to make with the Bridgeton, which has been a total disaster, the Bridgeton. And I said to myself, isn't that a shame? He's talking about how much money they're going to make, and here we are. He's smiling and laughing. Why don't we get some of it? Why is it that we're protecting? We have frogmen, we have helicopters, we have aircraft carriers, and all sorts of ships all over the Persian Gulf, so that this man and his little group can make a lot of money. I think it's ridiculous.
He had a plan to stop the waste, and so the race began, and the man who had been adored by everyone, from the legacy media to foul-mouthed rappers, stepped into the ring, only to be lampooned 24/7 until he crushed the establishment opposition.
This is a tough business to run for president.
I know, you're a tough guy, Jeb.
And we need to have a leader that is
real tough.
You're never going to be president of the United States by insulting your way to the presidency.
Let's see, I'm at 42 and you're at 3, so far I'm doing better.
Doesn't matter.
Here's a guy that buys a house for $179,000. He sells it to a lobbyist who's probably here for $380,000, and then legislation is passed. You tell me about this guy. He was such a nice guy, and he said, "Oh, I'm never going to attack." But then his poll numbers tanked. That's why he's on the end, and he got nasty. So you know what? You can have him.
Donald, is great at the one-liners, but he's a chaos candidate. And he'd be a chaos president.
Jeb doesn't really believe I'm unhinged. He said that very simply because he has failed in this campaign. It's been a total disaster. Nobody cares. And frankly, I'm the most solid person up here. I built a tremendous company, and all I want to do is make America great again.
That's all he wanted to do, and he wiped the floor with the establishment candidates at the same time that he catalyzed a nationwide populist movement, the likes of which we hadn't seen since the years of Teddy Roosevelt, as Reagan-era conservatives and salt-of-the-earth working-class Americans rallied to his message of America first, and it worked. Not only did he win the presidential nomination of his party, he defeated Hillary Clinton, one of the most corrupt politicians in American history. The seminal moment in that victory being the one in which Donald Trump spoke honestly and openly about who she really was.
It's just awfully good that someone with the temperament of Donald Trump is not in charge of the law in our country.
Yeah, because you'd be in jail.
So a man who had never run for any office before won the highest office in the land the first time he ever tried, and for 4 years he kept his promises, from crushing ISIS to reforming immigration and building the wall on our southern border, implementing the biggest American tax cut in modern times, as he likewise crushed unemployment to the lowest levels since the 1960s and to the lowest levels ever for minorities, until we had the strongest and biggest economy the world had ever seen. But that wasn't enough for Donald Trump. With the First Step Act, President Trump helped Black Americans rebuild their lives after being imprisoned. even inviting the newly released former inmates to the White House and even into the Oval Office. Perhaps the most stunning of all, however, was the fact that the 45th President of the United States was prepared to do something that not even conservative hero Ronald Reagan had done, becoming, as he did, the first incumbent president to address the anti-abortion March for Life and recommit America to the protection of the unborn.
All of us here today understand an eternal truth. Every child is a precious and sacred gift from God. Together, we must protect, cherish, and defend the dignity and the sanctity of every human life.
And I haven't even mentioned what my former boss achieved overseas. From stabilizing the Korean peninsula and holding a summit with the leader of the Hermit Kingdom, and including his judicious use of force where necessary, such as against murderous regimes like Syria's, to stop Assad using chemical weapons against innocent women and children. Or his targeting of Russian mercenaries for destruction before they could further destabilize the Middle East. While, at the same time, incredibly, after decades, getting our allies in NATO to finally pay their fair share. As a result of all of the above, it was truly one of the greatest honors in my life to not only serve in the White House as strategist to the President of the United States, as Donald Trump's deputy assistant, but to be asked to explain and defend all of these policies, giving interviews before the lying legacy media, and to do so as a legal, naturalized immigrant to this, the greatest nation on God's earth. So what happened? How could an administration with such an unbelievably successful record not be re-elected in a landslide? How could all those historic domestic and international successes lead instead to a 47-year swamp-dwelling, senile old man defeating the political outsider Donald Trump? Are we doomed to become a one-party state where elections are federalized and a country in which fair and free elections are just a memory?
You just watched Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news channel, now in more than 70 million homes. You can get Newsmax TV on your cable system or check your cable guide. And if your system doesn't carry Newsmax, call them, tell them you want Newsmax TV, because we're real news for real people.